Hello and welcome back to another interview with some fantastic artists today, and we're joined in the basement of Accidental by Black Triptychs. We've got Tom Hughes and Paul Fox joining me. Chaps, you've just joined us hoofing it from Beaver Forest in Belfast. Can you talk about some of the interesting things you were up to in the forest?
Yeah, I suppose we can. It's not a secret. We're both musicians. We knew each other since school. But recently, I was asked to do a bit of work with Dumworld, the kind of operatic production company in Belfast. So it's a project about walk-ins. We're doing it on Tuesday. It's like a kind of a musical footstep.
Sort of like meditative walking type of exercise. Yeah.
It's very experimental. It's kind of like a development project. So we've got a dancer, Maeve McGreevy, working with us as well.
Lovely Maeve.
Oh, you know Maeve, yeah.
Very talented.
Yeah, she's great. We were just doing a rehearsal for that there. So we're a bit out of puff.
Yeah.
Walking through the forest.
Yeah.
Is it immersive in headphones, or is it all around the forest different?
It's the idea is that there's a percussive foundation made with footsteps, and it's we only had a Maeve and then someone from Dumworld there, so there's only four of us, and we were then playing a bit of music around it.
We sort of have some improvised electronic weird instruments to play for part of the walk.
It's like our busking setup.
Yeah, it's almost like a Black Triptychs busking setup, yeah.
So is it recorded, or is it an audience are there as well?
So it's really like a immersive, I've described it as participatory performance, where you come and you perform as part of the group.
Nice.
So you're kind of, and essentially the idea is that whenever we walk with other people, there's a natural improvisation that happens. You kind of like match their pace, and sometimes it's very unconscious. So it's trying to tap into that a bit and allow people who wouldn't normally experience improvisation on a musical level or a theatrical or dance level to kind of have a go at that back and forth, that the listening and the kind of reacting that is central to improvisation, and that kind of taps into what Paul and I do in Black Triptychs as well. Like a lot of our stuff is very improvisational, and it kind of so it was a nice blend of bringing Paul in felt really natural to.
Yeah, it was kind of like a crossover, wasn't it, between like that project that you wanted to do and then our stuff that we've been doing. It was quite like it was like natural, like Tom said.
Yeah,
it's quite it was good. It's good to have like that sort of like the nature, like being out in the forest and stuff and having nature around, and then having like these weird sort of electronic instruments going at the same time. It's like a nice like juxtaposition.
It's kind of a nice segue then to talk about your other work or your main work, because you alluded to that it's similar to that. So you can give people who may not have seen you before or may not have seen you at Handmade, which because it's been a few months now since you were performing in the stage directly above us. Tell people a bit about your work. What's inspired it? You've been together since school.
Yeah.
Well, Black Triptychs certainly didn't exist then. There was a few different.
That would have been kind of cool. Like, like
t-shirts
and like 15-year-old scrawl. Black Triptychs, early days.
I think it was our age right now probably contributes to the kind of music we make.
Yeah.
But no, it was really like like a lot of music these days comes out of lockdown. But I had been wanting to make more music. Both of us have been in bands and various things
over the years
since we're teenagers.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
And some of us we played together sometimes, and then branched off and did other things. I was always like either playing bass or cello.
I was a drummer mostly, and I also like for a while was doing my own sort of solo stuff. And then like during lockdown, I suppose it was just after the lockdown, wasn't it, that you phoned me up?
Yeah, because I think I just asked you, do you want to play music? And you said you were interested in doing some like weird ambient blues stuff.
Yeah,
and
that's
I was
right.
like, oh, that sounds cool, let's try that. And it eventually just morphed, and we spent a year like just...
You just jamming every week. We would get together, usually sort of, it was like a Wednesday night or something for a long time. And we had like various practice spaces that we were in and out of and every week nearly we would get together, and for about 2 hours, I would bring a couple of samplers, and Tom bring his cello, and he like started collecting together all these effects pedals and stuff to run his cello through, and it just like we didn't really have anything in mind that we wanted it to sound like to begin with. We just sort of started jamming, and eventually it became its own thing, turned into sort of like a weird blend of ambient and classical, nearly, I would say. There's like a classical element to it with the cello and stuff.
And we then had our first gig was August last year, 2022, in what we've affectionately called the Granny Flat, which is the Granny Flat connects to my mother-in-law's house, and it was really risky. I didn't really know what people would think, but people really liked it, and it kind of went from there. We don't gig very often.
Yeah, we've only done what, like three gigs so far, 3 or 4, yeah.
And we did another Granny Flat gig at the end of this summer, so it's going to become an annual thing, hopefully. But I suppose it cemented the kind of sound we make, and then playing on Handmade kind of was an opportunity to really take that to that audience in the Granny Flat. Was really like family and friends, quite intimate. But yeah, that's kind of how we started.
The kind of Granny Flat stuff is, I think, really quite interesting. I think as artists often feel, you're driven, at least from my side, you're driven to perform to bigger audiences, get revenue, get sustainability, be a small business as much as be artists. But those kind of small events and, pieces like you're doing today in Beaver, they feel much more exciting often because you get that connection with the audience, that feedback, that performer stroke spectator kind of line is blurred a lot more. Is that where you would like to go more and more with your work? Is those kind of small intimate gigs, or do you want to grow it?
I think because of Tom being like, we're older now, like we're both in our mid-30s, and we're married and have kids, and we have families.
I will just interrupt for 1 second and say that that's still not older.
Okay, older than. Older than
I'm not that much older than you, but like to hear anyone say mid-30s is older.
I've been older than the usual. Like when you're younger and you're like a musician and you're thinking to yourself, you're really wanting to make it as a musician and make it into a business for yourself and stuff and make money and all. It's usually when you're a bit younger and you've got the time and stuff, but you get older and you realise, like there's other stuff happening in your life and you're a bit more free to, like, you don't have to take it as seriously as making it into like a business and, promoting yourself all the time and all that. Like we just wanted to, what was important to us was that it was something that we both were proud of. We both liked the sound of it. It was both something that we were like into ourselves. It wasn't like, we always said, well, we're going to just play every single gig that we got offered and stuff, and be trying to get the name out there all the time and constantly just promoting. We wanted to focus more on the artistic side of things, you know what I mean, and make something that was cool, that was interesting to us mostly. It wasn't like, we didn't have like a goal or anything like in mind for how like successful or unsuccessful or anything it was going to be. That's how I've always felt about it anyway.
And you've got, so you don't say yes to every gig, so what kind of drew you to Handmade?
Well, it was actually Mark Reed who works with Moving On Music and obviously set up Handmade with Paul Stapleton at Sark and yourselves here at Accidental. And I know Mark through mutual friends and kind of like, through the work Mark has done in the past, through Bobby Estrom and all his kind of Ordinary Days nights and stuff. And I just contacted him because he has that label Touch Sensitive as well. Just saying, I'm doing this and we've got this, and we recorded the Granny Flat gig last year as a kind of a bit of a demo, and it just was a happy coincidence. He was setting up this night and asked us to play, and I suppose it kind of fitted with what Handmade kind of is, where it's that, what's nice about it is, because it's got the Moving On Music part and the Sark part, you've got the kind of very avant-garde elements of the Sark that can be brought in, and then you've got more of the indie label kind of stuff and a bit more maybe stuff that just is on the edge of avant-garde or just touching it, but
Two slightly overlapping Venn diagrams of niche music.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But there's also that kind of sense of it's not like I always wanted our music to be listenable. I didn't want it to be kind of experimental for the sake of it, or kind of like just noise. You know, I know that there's plenty of noise acts out there. There's plenty of really experimental stuff, which is great. But it, you know, I think Handmade for me really fitted that sense of it's more about the intent to like make something that's maybe interesting or unusual, but it doesn't need to be really, really weird, or you know.
I think that goes back to it as well, like what I was saying about how we wanted it to sound like something that we liked. You know, like I wouldn't really listen to anything that was too like experimental or just noise or anything. Not even like I've always been into like ambient music and you know sort of stuff that's sort of listenable. It's quite out there, but it's still in the realm of like what you could be, you know, what you would term as still music rather than just pure noise type of stuff. Like I think that we're like quite, I don't know, it's what like sort of like film soundtracky types music. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like that, has that sort of feel to me.
Yeah, I suppose there's that kind of like, you know, that kind of post-classical. I don't like all the classical comparisons.
Yeah, there's like,
but there's that sense of.
but that, like, me and you sort of differ, I think, on what it sounds like. You know what I mean? Like I have ideas of what it sounds like in my head, and then you've got like sort of slightly different view of it. I think that's what's good. What's good about it? Like it's not something that is, you know, contrived that way where it's like, oh, we're trying to like get like a post-classical sort of band together.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's just we both bring our individual like sounds and preferences to it, and we just mesh them together. And you know, then it's turned into something that's like within its own right. It sounds like, you know, it's like something new out of both of those things.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds new to me anyway.
Yeah. No, and to be honest, it's like as Paul said, it was always about doing something that we liked, but it's also about doing stuff that we enjoy playing, and the improvisational element is huge to that, because I've been in bands where it's great, you've got a song written by a songwriter and you know you arrange around the song and it's great, and I've been lucky enough to be in bands with really good songwriters, but there's something lovely about not having that, you know, especially as you know, as throughout my life, and I suppose with you as well, playing like a bass or cello or drums, you're accompanying a lot, you know, you're kind of not taking the lead unless you've got like a solo or a wee line you do. So this was really an opportunity to kind of like, you know, strip that all away and try to find the ways to make rhythms and samples and cello lines and textures and drones kind of the focus of it all. And like whether it fits into that world of music or that world of music, we didn't really care. It's like, you know, we just enjoy doing it. You know?
I think it's nice as well that, you know, we wanted it to be still like a band, you know, we still wanted to have it where it was two people playing and it was kind of live sounding, you know, so much like ambient music and electronic type of music is very like pre-prepared, and, you know, for producing electronic music myself over like many years, it's like quite lonely, you know, you don't get that experience of playing in a band, and like I've been in bands and stuff, but it's mostly been like indie music and rock music and stuff like that, you know. It's interesting, I think, to have that band sort of dynamic only in like an electronic sort of, you know, ambient type of music, you know what I mean? We wanted to have that live sort of experience too for people. We wanted to have something that we're playing live, and it's like, you know, so much of it is improvised, so anything could happen, but the people who are watching, they know that they can see what's making the sound and what's, you know, being done, at least like to a certain extent, especially with like the cello and stuff, you know. It's really nice to have that live sort of, you know, you can see what Tom's doing, you can see all his loads of guitar pedals there, and he's, you know, it's quite a physical sort of interaction, you know what I mean? We still wanted to have that sort of physical sort of interaction with the audience and with each other, you know, having like this band sort of feel like a live, setup and stuff. That was important to us as well.
That's awesome because, especially with the electronic music and a lot of stuff, Sark and other places, it can feel impenetrable because of that disconnection between, as you say, the physical object and the sound.
Yeah.
The audience is kind of alienated in that way a little bit. But from what you're saying from your work, it's a lot about making that work, your music more accessible to them, and then them, again, going back to the Beaver Project, them accessible into your work as well, that kind of responsiveness. There does seem to be a common theme within what Mark and Paul and the team at Handmade are doing throughout a lot of the different shows, is that kind of different reaction and the improvisational nature of music being responded to by the audience and vice versa. And it seems to be very exciting. I love that you're doing that, but also the band, kind of the camaraderie, the connection between the two of you as well as a main focus. For those kind of coming up alongside and behind, who are kind of wanting, you have that kind of, I want to do my thing in my sound, but I'm lonely in my room doing twiddling different things, dials. Wasn't going to say the other word, but what would you say to kind of to inspire people to kind of to not necessarily follow your route and your choices, but to how would you tell people to kind of step into their own groove in their own work?
Well, I suppose there's absolutely nothing wrong with sitting in your bedroom and laying down tracks and working on, tweaking effects and getting something sounding exactly right. And there's nothing wrong with going to a gig and someone's sitting behind a laptop. And
it's more just that it's isolating. Often people, as Paul said, can feel it's isolating.
And I suppose it all, like, I think as far as I remember, I've always played an acoustic instrument, and there's always been that sense of, okay, this instrument exists in a space, and whenever you have a computer or anything like that, it kind of, you're dependent on the amplification and all this kind of stuff. So the thing is, I always felt that there was a connection with the audience through an acoustic instrument that's different with, so, it's kind of like, I think it's always about, try to like, make physical reactions as part of your set. So like kind of have ways that you trigger sounds that are visible to the audience. There's a physical, as Paul said, kind of like you press a button, something happens. You turn something unnoticeable happens, rather than like this kind of, impenetrable thing.
I think it's important as well to have that, in my own experience of being in bands, I've always really enjoyed the relationships that everybody has in bands. You become like very close to the people who you're making music with, and I think it's important to have that. Like, that's a whole side of being a musician that I love that I think is lacking if you are just a bedroom producer and you're sitting in your room and you're working on your tracks all the time. You're kind of like, it's great to be building experience in production and stuff that way, but I think also it's good to get out there and experience that side of music that the emotional side of music, the sort of like the closeness that you can develop when you're in a band with one person. It doesn't matter if it's one person or like 5 or 10 people. You're all like working towards the same goal. You've all got, it's a nice thing to be able to, combine ideas with other people and to share the experience of making music, I think that's really important. So I would say to anyone who's just sitting in their room to try and get out there and take whatever it is. Like, it doesn't matter if you can't play an acoustic instrument and you're only, say, your only experiences with, a laptop or something. I would like to see more people bring in their laptops and just getting together and making weird, like, laptop-based music, but like it's a communal thing. Do you know what I mean? I think that's important.
Yeah, Marty, who works with us here at Accidental, he started a project called Cosmic Jam, and it's entirely designed around that idea of, you bring down whatever you've got. We'll have instruments lined up, but you bring down what you want, and then at the end we all just jam together as well. Yeah, which I think that's that lovely kind of feeling of communal sharing of ideas, sharing of skills, and also getting the chance to put your your own stuff out there and start to get feedback on it. I think it's a really, I think that Northern Ireland in some ways loses a little bit or has lost, I don't know, because we've got such a small, slightly insular community sometimes that we are often kept in little silos from each other and don't often come together as much as maybe we could, or other places are kind of forced to. So Black Triptychs, what's next?
Well, we've got an album due to come out hopefully at the end of November, and hopefully here.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
We've still got a few things.
I completely forgot about that. We're literally emailing about it. So,
we've still got a few things to iron out, but hopefully we'll be announcing that very soon and have a special guest as well. But yeah, I plan to have just really nice, really curated, cozy evening. That's again our experience with the Granny Flat is, you try to cultivate an atmosphere that the music sits very comfortably in, that allows people to really just enjoy it and kind of, because I think one thing about our music is that it's it's like the pieces can be long and like kind of 10 to 15 minutes. So you want to make people feel comfortable enough that they can just sit and
bring their own beanbag.
Yeah, exactly. I've got plans for the beanbags, but also just to be in a place where they can let it wash over you. There's something about standing at a gig. Like I saw Lancome recently, and it was really good, and a lot of the stuff I really like. But those moments that it gets very intense and drony, and like some of their songs are very long. There's that sense of like you're standing, you're just like, I wish it was just like really cozy and comfy, listening to this music like you would an album at home, and that kind of music, it suits more like maybe like theatre or something like that. Whereas like a more like energetic band or dance, it's perfect for standing up in a crowd. So it'd be really nice to just get that, get that atmosphere right.
Definitely
important.
And we're hoping that people like the album as well. Like we
really hope.
We're very proud of it. We think it's really good ourselves. And the album itself is it's like quite epic in scale, to say the least. Like it's pretty long, and we would like to have that. We'd like to bring even if it during, I don't know, but how long are we going to play for? Like an hour or something, is it?
Probably an hour.
Yeah, so trying to bring as much of this huge album to like an hour set as we can. It'd be nice to have like that sort of atmosphere, this nice cozy setting where people can relax and can really get into it and experience it how it's meant to be experienced.
And it's like that thing where I think people's relationship with music has changed in the last decade with streaming and with the ability not to it's almost like events or kind of characterful things are more appealing to people, things that they can it's an experience rather than just you go to a bar and listen to a band kind of thing, and it's really about that, trying to create something that's memorable, and we haven't I think it's probably 4 months between each gig we've done in the last 2 years. But I think that's right, and we should think about each gig in a different way. And the more I think the more we go on, the more we probably get a bit of power in controlling that, and trying to we had an experience playing support at a band, at a kind of more straightforward band night, and it was different. It didn't feel the same, and I think both of us felt, no, let's not do that again. We need to really
we wanted to play more gigs where we can relax, knowing that people aren't standing there going, "What is this?" Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because it's not for everybody.
Exactly. And I was in a band years ago called the Winding Star, and it was not for everyone. It was violin, cello, acoustic guitar, and voice. It was dark folk. It was abrasive. It was more related to metal than it was to trad folk or whatever it was.
Still sounds cool.
And I'm still very good friends with the singer, and she put it on for her kids, and they were like, "What is this? This is terrible."
I'll give them 15 years.
I know. Yeah. But it was, there's something about, and we were trying to, play any gig that was going, and it was great. It was, such good training as well and practice. But there's nothing worse than that feeling of like being in a venue or a situation that's not primed for what you want to bring. And it may feel a bit like kind of aloof and kind of haughty to say, oh, you know, you have to be in the right frame of mind for our music. But I don't want to kind of like, I don't know, there's something about being a bit more generous and kind of like, you know, if it's not right for you, don't come, or, you know, want to kind of prepare people that it is much more immersive, and, you know, we want you to relax and be cozy and just, you know.
But I think that's fun. I think people, for me, have often misunderstood what marketing is. When I talk to people about they think marketing, especially when it's a venue, is about getting as many bums on seats, but it's not. It's finding the right audience for the right show.
Yeah.
Because there's no point in bringing anyone to a show that they may not like. You know, so it's not about, you know, hoodwinking someone into giving us a $5 to come in the door. It's about making sure you know that this is for you, this is your community. Come in and enjoy it if you want. And, you know, see what it's like. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining and for giving up your time and hoofing it from Beaver Forest.
That's right. Thank you.
You're going back into the forest now.
Yeah, that's where we live.
It's a rave later.
So thank you, Tom. Thank you, Paul. Black Triptychs. Look out for the album launch details and other interesting things. Where can they Google things about you? Just Black Triptychs?
Black Triptychs. There's a Bandcamp, which is just blacktriptychs.bandcamp.com, and Instagram, which is just Instagram @Black Triptychs or something, isn't it? Is that the way Instagram works?
I think if you search Black Triptychs, you'll get lots of stuff about Francis Bacon. So control through that.
Yeah, that's good to see anyway.
it's good learning before you get to it's all part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us.